Well, Halito, a little more Astroworld nostalgia. This one's kind of bittersweet. So in '98, after the '98 season, Excalibur was torn down. It was an old ride. That ride was built in 1978 and ran in the park for all those years. And it was the second oldest roller coaster in the park. Kind of miss it. I mean, I did miss Excalibur, but the 1999 season, 1999, debuted the Texas serial thriller, not serial killer, serial thriller. Now this coaster had, if I remember right, this was designed for the park. Actually, most of the rides, and I could be wrong, most of the rides were bought or transfer. Six Flags had a rotation system going on, where every few years a ride from one park would be uprooted, take another park, and swatch about. That kind of kept keeping rides refreshed, because most people don't. There's Six Flags all over the United States, and most people just don't go traveling Six Flags all the time. So, if you don't rotate your rides, some people will find your park getting kind of boring. So yeah, you bring in new rides. But serial thriller, if I remember right, it was designed for the park, custom built, and installed in the park. So they had to tear down Excalibur. Now serial thriller had, I think, total of 7 inversions. 7 times you got flipped upside down somehow. It had one, if I remember right, it had one loop, and the rest, and one good solid corkscrew, and the rest were curves that were very sharp curves that would change directions and kind of flip you upside down, and that can, like a semi, not quite a loop, not quite a corkscrew, but just that's how that curve was, and that curve would flip you and then upside down and change directions. This coaster here, you sat in little seats and your feet just dangled. I ain't gonna lie, how many times I'll be because the line meandered, and how many times I've seen this coaster going and people losing their flip-flops and their shoes off their feet, because the loop was one thing, but one of the corkscrews, I remember the corkscrew, when you hit that corkscrew, because top speed was at 50 is in the 50 range, 50 miles per hour, 49, 50, 51, so it was in that range, 55, it was in the 50s. And I do remember the corkscrew, because the loop was fun, but the corkscrew was kind of, for me, really fun, because the way the track's above you and your seats below you, and you're hanging from the bottom, when you hit that corkscrew, and your center mass is at your feet, kind of at your butt. That's where the ride is. But the way it would corkscrew around, the G-forces kind of pulling you into the seat, because again, the momentum, I'm getting all scientific now. The momentum of the fulcrum is above you, and all the G-forces are kind of at your butt. That's where your seat is. Your feet are literally just dangling. If you try to put your feet forward, it had enough G's that it would be seriously hard to keep your feet forward without the G's pulling your feet back down. But yes, I see many people lose their shoes off that ride, that corkscrew, and I see shoes just fling off the people's feet. And I think a lot, if I remember right, they'll tell people, if you have flip flops, sit on them. Don't try to, because flip flops, you're gonna lose them for sure. You have tennis shoes, please tie them. But yeah, and I want, if I'm lucky, right now you're looking at footage, because this kind of ride here, I just remember some of the G's it pulls, and some of these weird loopy corkscrews. And if I'm not, hopefully I can find a video of it in Astroworld. Now the ride was 1999 and operated all the way to closing, 2005. 2010, the ride was transferred to was it Six Flags over Quebec or something like that, or there is a Canadian theme park. They bought it. They call it the La Dande, or it's in French. But they that ride it is still a functioning ride today. So if I can't find the Astroworld version, because you know, it's gonna be hard to, so some of the POVs for these rides are kind of hard to find, you know. But if I can't find the Astroworld version, then I will for sure put in the Canadian version, because the same ride is just speaks French now instead of Texan. So, but yeah, the Texas Serial Thriller, man, that was a fun ride. Now I was you know, that year, I remember that year, that first year they debuted. I do remember, because I had come back to Houston from Florida, and it was in 2001 I went back to Florida from Houston. So I do remember going to Astroworld and kind of being semi-heartbroken that my beloved Excalibur was no longer there. You know, now they still had the whole Nottingham Forest theme. They still had that, but the just the whole Excalibur, it just kind of, it broke my heart, because even though Excalibur was a kind of docile ride, it was the nostalgia for me that made it special. So, but Texas, the Serial Thriller, man, that was a ride. I remember one time we went there like on Tuesday or Wednesday, I can't remember which. It was middle of the week, and I think, if I remember right, man, I rode that bad boy like 4 times back to back. I was probably in like one of the front cars or like something like that, but that you know, I ran the ride and came back to the loading station, and kind of told the operator, they know if you know, there's people in that line there, if they want to just take a seat, whatever. But yeah, I said I want to keep going. So, and he was like, well, it was a lot of people in line, so they can disperse into different cars. And yeah, about 3 or 4 times I rode everything back to back, and that was just that is what the whole inverted coaster thing, where you're hanging from the bottom, that is what I wish Accelerate should have been, because that is a ride with all its, you know, air fighter jet feel to it. You know, every turn you curved into the turn and dips, and yeah, you know. And I said, man, if they could have married, if Accelerate and the Serial Thriller could get together and have a baby, man, that would have been a true fighter jet experience. To be in a gondola looking thing, you know, and you're sitting there just corkscrewing and looping, and oh my goodness, that'd been so cool. But yes, but yeah, that park, that ride was 99 to 2005, and they it remained in the park. And that was, in fact, that was the last ride the park received. Sure was the last ride. So, or at least last roller coaster it received. So, miss it. Hot piece of latchkey.